Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. You guys know what time it is. Time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And for those of you who don't like these sort of videos, you saw the title of the video when you clicked on it. But since you're here, if you guys go ahead and click a like anyways, I would appreciate that. And numerous people have awared me that once again, Greg Doucette has responded to Eric Kanevsky. A lot of people say, Jason, why don't you imitate Greg? You imitate everyone else. Oh no, let me try. All right, let's try it.
Hey guys, it's Greg Doucette here. And first of all, I want to tell you guys I'm not a doctor, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. And never break the law. Don't break the law. I am the law. Judge Dredd was Canadian, actually, if you didn't know that.
So, let me go ahead and put on my +5 hat of Speechcraft, and let's talk about this. Alright, some of this stuff was pretty amusing, his response back, and I think where Greg has lost the plot on a couple things. First of all, you got to remember, you're talking to a child. You've been a school teacher before. Eric is a child. He is 23 years old, immature, has been blasting enormous amounts of gear since he was a minor. All right, he was in all the gear groups that we were in years ago, coaches, everyone else in there. Eric was using 3 grams of gear when he was like 17 years old, okay, as a minor. He's an immature guy, has no concept of consequences. So you've got to remember when you say things like, well, Eric, I'm 43 and I want to live to be 93. And I can respect that. I'm going to be 43 this year. All right, I'm turning 43 this same year. Reason I don't abuse a bunch of gear. There's a reason I've been slowly bringing my body weight down, even as a power lifter, that I've been slowly working down leaner. That's why I got down to under 20% body fat, and I'm going to keep going down just slowly over time. I've started working on conditioning. I eat my vegetables, all that stuff. And I don't abuse gear. And it comes down to, hey, I get that, man. I can appreciate that. I respect that completely. All right, I am with you there, brother. Eric doesn't care. Eric is going to die, okay? Eric has taken upon himself heroes like Rich Piana, who he know died at a young age, and he's trying to replicate what they do without understanding that he's not even going to make it to their age, right? Eric is not going to be around when he's our age. And his butt buddy Brandy, who, you know, you mentioned also, he's already been in the hospital. He's going to keep abusing gear. These are both very low IQ, very low functioning individuals who abuse ridiculous amounts of drugs. They don't care about their health, right? They're concerned with going out in a blaze of glory. And they're either too stupid or too young to understand the consequences of their action. Like Eric, literally, when you bring this up to him, and I have, when you bring this up to him, he tells jokes about it. Like he doesn't actually think that he's in any danger of dying. He doesn't think using 10 grams of gear a week and 20 units of growth hormone in a day and all that insulin is going to shorten his lifespan. You've got to remember that. Number two, you keep talking about the genetics and winning, and you're giving this totally serious argument, Greg, and your arguments are actually legitimate. And I don't even follow bodybuilding. I don't care about bodybuilding, but I understand what you're saying. Your arguments towards the guy are legitimate, and we'll get into some of those. But you need to remember, Eric isn't serious about any of that. Eric's not competing because he actually thinks he can win. He knows he can't win. He knows he's lazy. He knows he doesn't have the genetics to compete in bodybuilding. All right, this is all sensationalism, and it's for the money. I mean, a lot of guys out there, they don't understand how much money YouTubers make, and they don't understand that someone like Eric, who's sensational, abuses an enormous amount of drugs, admits to it, blows up to this ridiculous-looking physique. All right, Eric makes more money now than most IFBB pros. Okay, you've got to understand that. His YouTube channel alone, there's probably very, very few professional bodybuilders who are making purely from their bodybuilding, like their actual shows or their sponsorships. Most of them are not making the money Eric is making off of ad revenue. Also, because once you get a big outreach and you choose to use it to coach, you're going to pull in clients. All right, Eric is getting clients. I bet you as of right now, just looking at his traffic, Eric's probably making at least $50,000 a year in ad revenue, minimum. Okay. I've looked at the math on it, on some of his stuff. I've looked at the way he runs his ad rates. He's making 50 grand a year. Okay. If he's got, with what he's charging for just clients, and he's giving them cookie cutter stuff, if he's got just 10 clients, that's an extra 2 grand a month. All right. It's like $24,000 a year. Eric's pulling probably $70,000, $80,000 just off this stuff, not counting merchandise, not counting selling supplements, just off what he's doing. This is all about money. It's about sensationalism and money. And so Eric is always going to be over the top. Right, that's the whole point. It is about the money. This is a business. It has nothing to do with being serious. He knows he will never make it in bodybuilding. He knows that. So, over to the point though, some of the really sensational stuff that he threw over at Greg was telling him stuff like, well, you're not a real pro, and then Greg's like, well, I am. I'm just in these smaller classes. I've also coached real pros. And here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to agree with him, because a lot of people talk about the physique stuff and what physiques they want. It's never going to be my cup of tea, guys. It's not, but I understand. And I will agree with him. The overwhelming vast majority of guys, if they were to look at different physiques and say, hey, what do you want to look like, guys who train, they would point to a men's physique competitor, right? Men's physique. Or they would point to the classic bodybuilding, although most of them wouldn't want to be that ripped. Like, most women don't even find that attractive. And let's be realistic about that. But in terms of those overall physiques, if someone actually trains purely to improve their physique, that's what the overwhelming vast majority want to look like. Almost nobody who trains looks at a big, heavily enhanced, super heavyweight bodybuilder and wants to look like that. It's almost unheard of. A tiny, tiny number of people who train would even want to look like that. And Greg is right about it. He's absolutely right. But what I thought was funny is that he had told them, hey, I could have beat you guys when I was natural. I could beat you when I'm natural. And then Brandy and Eric kind of chimed in with, oh, well, that's amazing. Why did you ever go on gear? How were you that good? You could beat a super heavyweight. And it's like, because, Eric, you're not a good super heavyweight. You haven't won anything. You've lost every single thing you've competed in. And that's the thing. Eric always talks about everyone else as if they have all lost. He's even talked about me, and it's like, Eric, technically, just in terms of powerlifting, the meets you have seen me do since I've been on YouTube is the equivalent of earning a pro card in my endeavor. Like, for your thing versus mine, right, I went to nationals. I took first at regionals, got invited to Euros, got invited to nationals, and at nationals I earned a world's invite. And that was in a hard class. The men's 100 kilo raw open. I earned a world's invite to the 100 kilo non-drug tested open. All right, that's what I earned a world's invite to. Now, I barely earned that invite by the skin of my teeth. That'd be like you guys earning your pro card, almost just barely earning it and then being a bottom ranked pro, because had I gone to national or to worlds, I'd have been bottom of the pack. I would have, and I admit that. It's one reason I didn't bother. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't ready at that point to compete at worlds because I would have been bottom of the pack. Like, I would have probably placed 12th in my class. It would have been embarrassing. I'd spent a lot of money to place real bad. And I know that and accept that. But Eric, you've lost everything. You haven't done anything at the national level. You haven't qualified anything at the national level. You lost all your regionals. And placing middle of the road at a regional, that's not success. So you have someone like Greg who is obviously good at this stuff. Greg is also a very good power lifter. If you look at his powerlifting numbers, the guy is very genetically gifted and trained probably really, really hard. I don't know what his training does, but I've looked at his powerlifting numbers, and as a powerlifter, I can look at that and say, yeah, that guy probably trained his ass off, and he's genetically gifted. Let's just be realistic here. So for you, when you're not doing well, to say, oh, how could a natural beat someone who's a heavyweight, is you're not a good heavyweight. You're not a good heavyweight. Realistically, you shrank. You shrank when you came off all this enormous amounts of drugs. You didn't gain as much muscle as you thought you did. You just didn't. And if you were to run your fat-free mass index, I think you'd be surprised how small you really were if you really calculated your body fat accurately, considering your height, what you weighed at that show, and you still weren't ultra lean, you know, by like bodybuilding standards. By real world standards, absolutely. You know, you were not as big as you think you are. I mean, go plug your numbers in. Hell, go get a DEXA scan. You're going to be surprised. You're not that massive. And you have guys like Greg who are dense, know how to train, more gifted than you, probably did get peeled. And that leanness matters in bodybuilding. I don't get it. I think it's stupid. But that's part of what they judge on. The guy right now, looking at him in just this video, watching him sitting there in his tank top, he's leaner than Eric was at his show. Just call it what it is. So it's ridiculous that they're like, oh, well, how that's impossible or that's ridiculous. Well, no. I mean, he did. I mean, he was successful, obviously, at what he did as a natural. The guy's been a successful power lifter at the elite level. Guy's got his pro card and his whole bodybuilding gig. I mean, he's pretty successful at what he does. I don't think you can argue against that. And Eric, you haven't been. And that's the other problem. You know, you always say things like, well, this person, that person can't coach me. You can't coach yourself. You can't coach anybody. You've not been successful at your endeavors. And I get it, man. It's a business. It's not about being successful. It's about making that money. All you got to do is keep cranking out the controversial stuff, being a freak, being over the top. You'll make your YouTube money. You'll get your coaching clients. You'll sell your products. You'll make 6 figures. Absolutely. Absolutely. It'll happen. You're probably getting close already. But you are going to die because you don't seem to understand the consequences of your actions for the amount of stuff you're putting in your body. And that's kind of the point that Greg always comes around to. Because Greg has had himself and clients and other people train right, have responsible use of their anabolics. I still think what he uses is too much. That's my opinion, says me. But I'm concerned with longevity. I don't think people should be using amounts of substances that is going to kill them early. I have my opinion on what's appropriate, and I think Greg's is too high. But what Eric is recommending and using is so far beyond that that it's not even in the same ballpark. And so Greg is very much right to call him out on abuse. He is right to call him out on abuse. That's all it is. Eric does nothing but abuse gear in amounts that no human being, even who wanted to be a pro bodybuilder, should even be considering, and he's still failing. He's failing at bodybuilding. He's succeeding at the YouTube and entertainment business, though. And that apparently, and I'd venture to say that that's really what Eric's goal is. Based upon what I know about Eric personally, over the years, that is what his goal is. It is for him about making the money on the entertainment end. And I get it. But I think a lot of people don't. They don't understand that. Eric's not actually trying to be successful at bodybuilding because he knows he can't be. And that's fine. But the downside is going to be that this is going to take an enormous toll on his health. He's not going to make it in the long term. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.